Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to today's edition of Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We promised last week that we're going to continue with our discussions on the call by the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation on the U.S. Secretary of State to press on the U.S. Government to push for an end to the ongoing conflict in the southwest and northwest regions. We are going to continue that discussion. Also, we are also going to be looking at this question that has been dividing opinions since the advent of the Anglophone crisis, asking whether the Anglophone crisis is synonymous to the Ambazonian problem. We are going to be discussing on these two topics with the panelists who are in the house already. Our consultant is there as usual. Apostle Ambe Valentine was here with us. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, my co-panelists. Good evening, Cameroonians and viewers of Prime Hour. It's always a joy to be here to bring very important information. Today, I'm sure the debate will be a very strong one because we are discussing something that concerns the very fabrics of this nation. Thank you.
We are also in the company of Dr. Nick Ngwanya. He is a social entrepreneur and educationist. He's also a politician. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much, Leo, and good evening to our listeners. It's going to be pretty exciting tonight, and before we delve into this story, I want to keep on reminding us that COVID-19 is a serious thing. It's killing a lot out there, and we should, stick to the barrier measures, hand washing or sanitizer, wear your mask. It's true, and in the studio now, three of us, we are sitting 3 meters apart, so we're not worried. Just so that we can communicate better. And I would encourage the population to stay away from very crowded areas. If you're in Douala, I would encourage you not to go to Marché Central. The place it doesn't have any ventilation and has so many people and can be a good area for transmitting COVID-19. Also in areas like Carrefour, some Carrefour, that very busy Carrefour in Douala, what is it called? Ndokoti, yes, that's it. So yes, avoid things like that. Thank you.
Okay, we are also in the company of Ndifo Richard, who will be coming in live from the United States of America. Good evening, Ndifo, and welcome.
Good evening, Jonathan. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure being part of the program. Just to take from where Dr. Nick ended, say that one of the worst things that surrounds this issue of COVID-19 is the amount of misinformation that is taking place in media. I would just advise that Cameroonian that they mind type things in social media and they take it with the so.
Ndifo, thank you. We are expecting the arrival of our senior barrister Ashu Emmanuel to be joining us in the minutes ahead. We hope he's already on his way to this place, but since we started and promised to continue, today we are looking at the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, calling on the U.S. Secretary of State to press on the U.S. government to take action. Question I'm going to ask to you both, Dr. Nick Ngwanya, how timely is this call? We know that we are 4 or 5 years into the conflict.
And are also asking the questions, how long is this going to continue? And they're kind of like, let's do something about it. So they're doing the right thing in the sense that they're waking up and they're putting forth this call with the understanding that the sooner we stop this war, this I call it this stupid war, the better, because people are dying, people are suffering, and there was no need for the war in the first place if we had our thinking caps on and if we had pocketed our egos. So you see, we are killing ourselves for no good reason. And the bottom line is, both ways we start a war and children, be they the military or other children called Amber, are dying unnecessarily. So I think it's about high time that this foolishness should stop. But that said, it's a good thing that they have called for this, but what I keep saying is that they are on the right path, but the answer has been already been given, in the sense that, you know, President Paul Biya, I keep saying it, it's cooking up some dialogue in the background, and that dialogue is going to be genuine, it's going to be open, it's going to be free, it's going to be fair, it will be a round table, and it might be in the country or not, and everybody who has got something to offer to bring a solution to our problems will be at that table. And there will be third parties if they are necessary, they would be there, and the problems would be handled by specialists in the field, Cameroonian specialists, not necessarily people from abroad, and we have those specialists. So it's a good thing, and I would like to say that before the cardinal left, he prayed over our nation, he gave his instructions, and those instructions will be followed.
Apostle Ambe, how timely is this call by the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation?
No solution is too late as long as the problem is still pending. So I will not say this late. I will also say they have not been making maximum effort to see that the crisis come to an end. Theirs is a diplomatic approach which we all celebrate, because if it were to be left in the hands of these guys, they will not take the bullets or guns approach, because from their point of view, it's obvious that they want the diplomatic approach. For pressing America, it means they are not in support of guns. And my problem is, let their efforts also not be neglected as others have been neglected in the past, because they seem not to be the first group of persons who have made maximum effort to see how the crisis come to an end. But it looks like every effort advanced towards the government as well as the separatists falls on deaf ears. I pray that this coalition for national dialogue and negotiation will be the panacea that will bring a lasting solution to this crisis. I will often say, this is my quote: when guns begin to smoke in any nation, is only an indication that minds have failed. If minds were put together, the greatest battle is a mental battle, not the one with guns. And if at all we cannot win a battle in the mind, then we will definitely hold guns tomorrow. So since minds were not put in place and this battle started, minds should go back to work to put the battle to an end. And I want to believe that the coalition for negotiation and dialogue and negotiation is practically putting their minds together, because they are consulting a lot of authorities within and without the country to make sure the crisis come to an end. As a matter of fact, I had a chat with them. They are not standing on any particular thing. Their objective is to see that peace comes back to Cameroon and that peace be restored in the northwest and the southwest. We can have a good economy again. Based on where they are standing, I think they are neutral. They don't have any particular intention of defending a particular form of state. They want this thing to come to a table negotiation that will come to a conclusion. So I think they are on track, they are on time, and their ideas are very healthy.
Therefore, Richard, I'm sure you have been following on with what the coalition has been doing for some time now. Your take on the timeliness for their call on the U.S. Secretary to press on the Biden's administration to engage a broader international community platform to be able to force the hand of either the government and the separatists to halt hostilities in the southwest and northwest regions.
Because many of us have been looking up for. Many of us have been. Are you getting me?
Yes, I'm getting you. Go on.
Thank you. So I was saying, this is a great niche. Many Cameroonians have been looking up for any group or any people that will champion the cause of that of Cameroon. Because apparently, the separatists on the one hand and the government on the other have proven their unwillingness to come to the table. And I think that the third party, like the coalition, and the fact that they are coming with a stronger power, the US government, to intervene issue is quite welcome. My only fear is that the individuals, those who are involved, the protagonists, how will they be able to bring them to the table? Because the separatists, who most of them found out there in the United States, and Europe, and in other parts of the world, may be very skeptical of the regime to get to have any meaningful dialogue. And so I think that why they are calling on the U.S. government to keep this course, they should also take into consideration that they should look at a level playing or a neutral ground where the two parties be able to meet, and where both parties will also accept to meet. So that will be another turning part of it. Because it's easy to say that the U.S. government should champion the first dialogue. But when you look at the reality on the ground, I not being a prophet of doom, I am getting a little bit skeptical as to how both parties are going to come together, because there is no way we can be able to handle this situation without both parties sitting on the table. Both parties will have to sit on the table somehow. And so if they don't come to the table, I don't see how the dialogue is going to be yield any fruit, because or except maybe they may use technology, so to speak, because we live in a world of technology. Maybe they could talk to each other through some kind of technology, just the way we are communicating here now. Otherwise, it is going to be very difficult to see how both parties are going to come together to have a genuine dialogue, so to speak.
Okay. Many persons I see poor network from Cameroon. I'm sure in relation to the intervention of Ndifo Richard out there from the United States of America, but this is not the first call since the onset of this conflicts ongoing in the southwest and northwest regions. Severally, persons have written. The EU itself has called on both parties to halt hostilities. Do you have the impression that because it is coming from the coalition for dialogue and negotiation alongside 8 or 9 other international organizations, it's going to attract the attention of the US to act? Do they have what it takes to pull these guys in?
I don't know how best I'm going to explain this so that we understand. I'm going to say it, the ABC of it, okay? Whether we take it or not, I'll just give you the ABC. And this is it. You know, last time we were here, was that Monday or something like that? We were saying that they will not be discussing the Cameroon issue at the United Nations. And the good reason is because most of those things that would have been discussed have been solved in the background. And that is why there's going to be a dialogue, reconciliation, and unity. And that position is being pushed forward by His Excellency President Paul Biya. And before the Cardinal left, he was aware of that. And it's left to us now to see how we make it fruitful. And there's going to be a dialogue. And this time around, it's not going to be a joke, because we are all familiar with the failed major national dialogue. That damn thing failed. And you know, before we had the major national dialogue, you know, there was a lot of heat, just like now. Can we have dialogue? Can we have dialogue? Can we have dialogue? And the world over, you know, said, okay, let's have the dialogue. And I think some people kind of like co-sponsored the dialogue. But unfortunately, we did things a la Cameroonese. We did things, the way the dialogue was managed, the finances and the objectives and everything, it was just washy-washy, like, you know, like the COVID money that has been, the way we've handled the COVID money. It's the same thing, you know, no excellence, no accountability, you know, personal interest comes in, and then, but people don't look at the problem, look at the picture and stick to common good. And they don't have those values that the Cardinal was standing for. If that major national dialogue were organized by the Cardinal, there would have been no problem in the country by now. but it was organized by people who don't feel the pain of the nation, who don't feel the pain of the common man, who think more about themselves, preserving something I don't know what, and sticking to power or something I don't know what drives them. But the sense of common good was not there at the major national dialogue. Honesty was not there. Truth was not there. Love was absent at that meeting. And that's why we ended up with something that didn't work. We ended up with something that went off on a tangent and left the problems untouched. And therefore, we had something that we called the major national dialogue and told the world, this is it, and we have done a good job. So the world gave us now time to see the fruits that will come out of it. But it became evident 1 year afterward and more that damn thing is not working. Because if you had done it properly, it should be yielding fruit. If you plant beans, you should be, in 3 months, you should be able to harvest some fruit. But we are getting nothing, and it becomes very clear that if we continue on this path, it's not going to work. So now people have put on their thinking caps again and say, now look, this time we need a dialogue, and it's not going to be like what we had before. It must be sincere, it must be genuine, and there is no room for failure, and that problem will be solved.
Yes, you speak with a lot of certainty. You've echoed this view severally on this platform, and many persons are actually wondering how that will work out. But do you think this coalition for dialogue and the others have what it takes to pull the international community to force the hands of stakeholders in this crisis to stop the war?
Yes, I think they have, because the guys are actually working.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to be within the middle of them to understand the level at which they are pursuing the crisis. They are consulting a lot of personalities across the globe. I mean, when I talk about personalities, people who matter. And they are trying to pull the hands of many nations to come into the crisis in Cameroon. They are taking their personal effort, personal finances. There's nobody sponsoring them as per se, no nation sponsoring them. They are trying to visit some big guns across the nations of the world, some ambassadors, some other personalities, to bring them to a table so they can be able to drag the Cameroon government and the separatists in question on a roundtable conference to discuss. They even go to the extent of dragging some of the separatist leaders, bringing them to come to a consensus with them so they can sit on the same table and deliberate. What I admire about the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation is that they are neutral and they have a heart for the people. They are carried to the burden of Cameroonians who are suffering, the suffering masses, the IDPs, the refugees, and those who have died in their numbers. They are carried with passion with what is happening to the economy of the North and the Southwest. They are carried with passion on what is actually happening with the education of the children in the North and the Southwest. So it is this burden in them that is driving them and making sure that they put their finances, their energy, put everything and every resources needed to make sure that this dream becomes a reality. I think from the way they are going, there's a lot of sacrifice. And even if God will not reward anything, God will reward their sacrifices, because they are putting their finances, they are putting their time, they are putting their energy. And I think it's time for us to also look into what they are doing and then place some value on it. They have what it takes to drag many persons to bring this crisis to an end.
For Richard, I don't know whether you buy what Apostle Ambi Valentine Guato said. Do they have what it takes to force the international community to intervene in what is happening in Cameroon? And if not, what other instances could bring this to happen?
Well, Jonathan, I don't think the people involved. I'm talking about this has set up that it come table if they will come table with able to come between and
yeah, and if I go on.
Yes. So I was saying that what we should be worried about is the protagonist. So we are worried whether they will be willing to come to the table, like if they come to the table, if they will have open mind to have open discussion. Because what we see on the ground is that on the one hand we have secretaries who are up and they see the shot up. And then we have up who are stabilizing the nation. And so it becomes very difficult to find both parties. So, what we should be expecting, and what I'm looking at is that in the issue that be able to bring these parties together. As far as the international community is concerned, the international community is very willing, very open. What I should be saying is that government holds the highest responsibility to be able to give this opportunity a chance. Because if the government is not willing to sit on the table with separatists, it becomes even more difficult. And also, I'm also encouraging also the separatists to have an open mind, because whatever the case, if we have a problem, there will always be a middle position. Each one of us will have to move a little bit from its position to the center. And so if they are willing to do that, I think that is going to be where we can start thinking of having a result. So that, in my opinion, is where the great challenge lies.
Okay, that's where the great challenge lies. Which other instances could cause this to happen? That is causing both sides to halt hostilities, given that several people have been calling, different quarters have been calling, even the international community themselves, they have been calling.
Yes. Yes, like I said, the
backdoor negotiations are ongoing.
Backdoor negotiations have never stopped. They've been going on, and the time is just about right. And like I said, the president is going to call for a dialogue. There's going to be reconciliation, and there's going to be unity in the nation. That's the bottom line. That's what we're going to get. We're going to have a dialogue, we're going to have a reconciliation, and there's going to be unity. And then we'll all change the operating system in the nation and get Cameroon to function again. We'll improve our economy, our development, our education, and what have you. And then we'll change the kind of politics that we play in Cameroon, because I guess the country has been failing because of the kind of politics. We just practice the politics of hate. We don't practice developmental politics. We don't practice economic politics. We don't practice a kind of politics with love and with principles. So we need to look into that. Like, you know, we have 350 political parties in the country. That of course is a farce, and we need to deal with all those things that are not true and correct them and begin to live by virtues of truth. And then if we do that, and we make truth and love our reference, and we respect each other, and we work on merit, then we'll get every problem solved, and we have the possibility to solve it. We are asking for the international community. That's great, but the 70% of the burden of solving this problem lies on the president and the government of Cameroon. 70%. And then once the way is open for the dialogue and for all these problems to be solved, then the people who are fighting, the diaspora and everyone else who is angry, will be called to that table, and we might now ask for the blessings of someone from the international community to come and oversee it and make sure that we are doing the right thing and we are not hurting each other, and we are not bringing an overdose of ego to the table or something like that. So that we look for that middle ground that Ndifo was mentioning, and that middle ground is going to be the solution. And once we have come to that position, because we must come to the position of whether we like it or not, And I'm saying so because there are people who are abroad and they feel very comfortable abroad. And you can be very comfortable now because the people out abroad have also been hoping that the problem would have been solved with following the major national dialogue and whatever, so that everybody can go on peacefully. But because things have not happened, this dialogue we are going to have will be the last chance for a dialogue, a meaningful dialogue. And once it is established as a meaningful dialogue and all the conditions are met, it would be expected that everybody, whether you like it or not, you will go to that dialogue and make sure that we get to that position where there is peace. And for those who would not toe the line, that's where the problem would be. And you can be very certain that if you don't toe the line in the interest of the rest of the nation, there's going to be a lot of problems. Because like we said, we start a war and we are very comfortable elsewhere in the world. We start a war and we are very comfortable probably in Yaoundé or something like that. But the bottom line is that it's the children of the poor that are dying at the war front, either as soldiers or as Amba or even as civilians that are caught in between the two fighters. As the elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers, and that is going to stop. Thank you.
Okay, that is going to stop. The Coalition for Dialogue did not write this letter alone. They did so with the World Council of Churches, the Consortium of Ethiopian Human Rights Organization, the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiations, Nuestra Agenda. They also had the Cameroon Humanitarian Relief Initiative, the Global Campaign for Peace and Justice in Cameroon, the Refugee Council of Australia, the Presbyterian Church USA, this one is Task International. These are mainly internationally based organizations. Would it not also have been nice for the Coalition for Dialogue to move to engage this move alongside grassroots civil society organizations?
But I'm sure some grassroots civil organizations are mentioned there in Cameroon.
Yeah, but not the ones that we know that touch basing with the communities. The ones we know are not mentioned here.
That's why I'm letting you understand that even if we don't know the ones that they have written there, but I'm sure they are dealing with people here in Cameroon, and we do not know the persons in question. Probably the persons we are looking up to, they are part of what they have contacted in Cameroon.
No, the persons in question, we know them. How do you say we don't know them? Senior Barrister Ashu is part of the Coalition for Dialogue.
That's what I'm saying, that the civil societies that, because there are some civil societies there from Cameroon now. Yes, there are persons there from Cameroon. Do we know the person that consists of those two bodies in Cameroon? We might not know. Probably some former names used earlier don't want to identify anymore. That's why these new names have come up, because some persons were in the consortium that was banned. Some persons were in other organizations and other groups that were banned in Cameroon. So for them to come back with such names, it will be a kind of provocation. Probably they must have attached themselves to these unpopular names that do not have any particular attraction or a particular focus from the government. So we cannot conclude. The fact that there are two major organizations there from Cameroon speaks volumes. And they have contacted persons in Australia, the Presbyterian Church in America, and the Refugee Council and other bodies in the world. If you look at it critically, for them to have gone to all those places, visit those individuals, bring these groups together, about 11 other groups are there working with the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. It's obvious that people are doing a very serious work on the ground. And we don't know other persons, because these are bodies that they have mentioned, and those bodies consist of individuals. We don't know the personalities that belong. If they say Presbyterian Church in America, there could be some senators there, there could be some governors there, there could be some ambassadors there. So these are all bodies, and these bodies, who consist these bodies? That's the problem. The individuals in question who consist these bodies is practically what we are talking here, not just the names in question. So I think if they are dealing with two bodies in Cameroon here, it's obvious that some Cameroonians are aware, and those Cameroonians are persons who practically know what is going on in Cameroon, and they are part of the burden of what Cameroonians are carrying right now. So I don't see anything wrong with the name, because there are some particular names we already have that we've concluded that if these names are not in place, it means definitely things are not going to work. Yes, so let's not make conclusion that the fact that those names in Cameroon are not popular doesn't mean that they don't have what it takes to influence the Cameroonian government to see into the crisis.
And therefore, Richard, let me get back to you. I hope this is going to be clearer. If it's not clear, we may have to end our discussions with you because the network is terribly poor. But and therefore, you are someone who knows most of the civil society organizations operating in Cameroon, those who are in Bongé, in Camer, those who are actually working with the people in Manu and other places. Would you have wanted, expected to see them also very involved in this move?
Yes, Leonard. As a matter of fact, we have most of the organizations in Cameroon, civil society organizations in Cameroon. They have their roots right down to the base. But the big question is, how will they get to those people down there? Because what usually happens with initiatives like this is that when they get to Cameroon, they get the leaders of these non-governmental organizations and the focus on talking with those leaders, with those opinion holders. It is true, we need the opinions of the people on the ground, but we cannot get everybody on the table. Everybody cannot be on the table. As a matter of fact, each organization has the responsibility to go back to the community from which they're coming and talk with the people within that community. Get their feedback, get the feedback from the people from that community, and present it to the broader organ that is managing the whole dialogue stuff. Because I don't think it would be possible to bring everybody right down from the grassroots, right down from Bongé to come and sit on the table.
No, I'm not talking. I'm not. You're getting me wrong. I mean, organizations that are operating in Cameroon that are working with people down there, so as to speak their minds. I'm not talking about bringing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That will now depend on the guidelines given by the Coalition for Dialogue. Whatever guidelines they will give the different organizations is what those organizations are going to follow. Because I'm very sure that the Coalition for Dialogue have specific guidelines as to how they want this dialogue to go about. If it is their wish that they want to get opinions from the people in the grassroots, they will definitely set that as the basis for which they want to be discussing with those organizations, and maybe talk to those members of the organization to get down to the grassroots and talk to the people and get their opinions, get their views, and bring it to the table. So that will largely depend on the overall guideline that is set up by the Coalition for Dialogue. But let me just intervene here to talk about something that Dr. Nikngwanya mentioned, because it looks like he is talking with a lot of authority, and gives me the impression that he looks like he's very close to the presidency to talk with such authority that the president is already working on something and that very soon is going to come into fruition. Well, that would be great. But we have our misgiving. We have seen from several initiatives taken by this regime that there is no real intention on the part of the regime to carry on any dialogue that is really, to say, genuine. As a matter of fact, he even made mention of what he called the national dialogue. As a matter of fact, these issues are not national. This issue it may be an issue of the nation, but this issue is not a national issue. This issue is an issue that pertains to a particular group of people, the Anglophones, so to speak. And therefore, if there is any kind of dialogue, it should involve the Anglophones on the one hand and the president of the government on the other hand. It shouldn't be an issue of the national dialogue, because if we still go down that path of having the so-called national dialogue, where they would bring in other issues within the state to put it inside, and in fact, in so doing, cause people to miss out on the core of the real issues to be discussed. So in my opinion, the focus should be the Anglophone problem. If after solving the Anglophone problem, we find the need for the nation to come together now and address other national concerns, that can now be addressed. But for now, the main issue is the Anglophone problem. And therefore, that should be the issue that should be tackled. And so my reason for being I've already explained to you that I'm very skeptical as far as the regime is concerned. And so therefore, if in my opinion, I would think that the government should allow, because even if the government shows some interest in handling this issue, in coming up with a genuine dialogue, the other side is not going to trust the government. Even Cameroonians are not going to trust the government. So it is for that reason that I think that the government should allow this neutral body, the Coalition for Dialogue, to push through with this if the government is really interested in seeing dialogue and seeing that peace return. I think that the government should allow the Coalition for Dialogue, which is a neutral organ, which is working with individuals and groups that do not have a particular interest in conflict. I think that will go a long way to solve the problem.
Okay, we have just been joined by Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel. Good evening, and we're glad to have you with us, Senior Barrister.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Apostle. Good evening, Dr. Nick.
Thank you.
Good evening, televiewers.
Sorry
for the. Well, you know, I'm a Muslim. We are in the month of Ramadan, and I have religious constraints.
Okay, you had to break the fast before joining us. Okay, yes, we were looking at the timeliness of this action, of this move led by the coalition to which you belong, and the capacity for it to pull the international community into action.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Leo. The Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation is an international organization. It's not something. It was started by Cameroonians, but it doesn't belong to Cameroonians anymore. It's something international. You can see that last document that was signed. You can see the capacity of mobilization of the coalition. They got organizations from far and wide, Australia, throughout, from various sides of poles of the world to sign. So the coalition is actually very, very powerful in negotiations. It's very powerful in touching people, in canvassing for support. You've seen the powerful people who have been brought on board from Germany, from France, from Ireland, from the UK. The coalition actually has the capacity to do what you are, to answer the question you are posing. And they did display that capacity by organizing their first international webinar, which took place for 3 days, and you saw the number of people who came on board. It was not only Cameroonians, there were international personalities, there were former heads of states. We all saw what the coalition could do. Well, I just came in when the previous speaker was on board, and he was talking of the government allowing the coalition to play its own quota. Whether the government wants it or not, the coalition is working. It is working. The advantage is that the coalition is based out of the country.
Yeah, but you need the government to...
It is not the coalition that is going to meet the government to say, please, let us negotiate. You see the technique. The coalition brings on board the big brothers who have the position, who have the leverage to talk to the government.
You've come again with the term of big brothers.
Yes, I will say it. The big brothers who have the leverage to talk to the government.
Are you not supposed to also lobby the government to see into the possibility
for
you
see,
guys to... Yeah.
Let me tell you, the first attempt that were made to lobby the government, people started saying, coalition for surrender. You've heard that term. Many people started describing the CDN as coalition for surrender.
Which people? Who says coalition for surrender?
Well, one of the factions of the Cameroonians in diaspora. I think I've seen that about 100 times. They say the CDN is coalition for surrender. That CDN wants to cajole Cameroonians into southern Cameroonians into surrendering their rights, which is not true. If CDN were not there, many of them would not even know what they are standing, what they are looking for. You see, they will not even know what they're looking for, because ask them. You saw the comment of I think Mark Barretta, who said a certain international diplomat asked him, who was the president of Southern Cameroon's independence, and he said he was embarrassed. There are small questions. I mean, you see, CDN came out with, I say it again, a big documentation produced by experts.
Senior barrister,
which can, yes sir.
Is the document you people produce, is it
available to the public?
Is it more powerful than what Christian Cardinal Toomey presented?
I beg your pardon. Toomey presented nothing.
Wow.
I am telling you, Toomey, look, I am, excuse me. Excuse me.
Give him some respect. With due respect, you're hurting me. Call him Cardinal Toomey, please.
With due respect to late
respect him. Thank you.
With due respect to, well,
okay.
I followed him because he said to me. Anyway, when you say Joe Biden, do you mean that he's
no? That's
all right. So you should don't raise polemics for nothing.
No.
Yeah.
When you call personalities by their name, it's not a sign of disrespect.
But
in certain countries where people are used to bowing down, yes. But you see, it is not a sign of disrespect.
We call you yes, senior
many people
barrister.
say Macron. Is Macron your classmate?
No. When it comes to me, it's not your level.
Oh,
please.
When it comes to me, it's not my level.
Yeah.
It's near God there.
Sure.
Oh, I see. I understand you.
Senior barrister. Now, some persons after the webinar that you just said, some persons felt that those from Cameroon who are members are not too neutral. They are taking a side.
Those from Cameroon.
You
excuse me. Wait. We know ourselves.
Let me count. You are receiving stones on both sides. That people in Cameroon will think that you are too pro the separatists, and then they are the separatists themselves who see you people as working in line with the government.
Now, when you say people in Cameroon, in so far as I'm concerned, there were only two of us, that two big personalities in Cameroon for the CDN, myself and Justice Ayapol.
Okay.
Yes, I'm co-chair for Commission of Governance, and he is co-chair, I think, for Constitutional Committee. So I don't see any other person. The others are members, but they are not as prominent. I don't remember having seen Ayapol Abine anywhere talking against, making pronouncements that will make one to think that he's either for the government or for the separatists. I don't remember myself having taken any position anywhere that would make any person think that CDN is for the government or for the separatists. I said last time here that CDN is neutral. We support nobody. And you see, bring all the parties together on the table. Let them sit on the table and talk. It is not, we are not the people to talk. They should stop beating about the bush and address the attention to serious issues. We want people to sit on the table and discuss. It is not CDN that is coming to discuss for you. I was saying that CDN has come up with something which late Cardinal Toomey could not dream of, because look, we are not talking of a document produced by 1-2 people. There were well over 600 experts. We were for 6 months. You don't have any idea of what we are talking about. If I personally, what I produced was 47 pages. I alone. What about what the others produce? So you say we should be serious. You cannot compare CDN to what late Cardinal Toomey produced. That was a child's play.
Wow.
What? I am telling you, it was a child's play. If you like,
let me get to Ndifo Richard before getting to you. I want us to clarify. Ndifo Richard, are you there? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whether you have had opportunity to appraise the work that the late Cardinal Toomey did, the Catholic Church, and what the Coalition for Dialogue have done. Where do we situate the two?
Yes, you see, when I listen to Barrister Ashu talking, we cannot place the two groups in competitive positions, in positions where we're comparing both of them, because the angle from which Cardinal Toomey was looking at this issue was completely a different angle from what the current the current coalition for dialogue is looking at it. First of all, what Cardinal Tumi's initiative was to try and bring together the Anglophones. We should understand that as far as the problem is concerned, well, we that topic you brought up, you talk about Ambazonia, and then you talk about the Anglophone problem.
No, that's the second. That's the second topic for tonight.
Yeah, I know. I'm not getting to the second topic. I'm just trying to explain to you that what Cardinal Tumi was trying to do was to bring Anglophones together. He was trying to bring Anglophones together to reason under the same thinking path, and then before he positioned them in a place to start negotiation for dialogue with the government. Unfortunately, Cardinal Tumi's initiative was being punctured on both sides. It was being punctured on the side of on one side by the government and the other side by the separatists, and it was unfortunate that Cardinal Tumi could not push through with his vision, with what he actually wanted to do. So we can't really compare it with an international organization like the Coalition for Dialogue. This is an international organization which, like Barrister rightly pointed, it's not constrained by the limitations of government control. So this is an organization that has some degree of independence and can work freely. So that is why I said it becomes very difficult to put that organization side by side with Cardinal Tumi's initiative, and you try to make a comparison. That would not be a fair comparison to make.
Okay, not a fair comparison. I raised that issue because the senior barrister describes that as child's play compared with what the Coalition for Dialogue is doing. But should the coalition itself, should they also not direct the bullet towards the separatists themselves and the government? I'm talking about the key stakeholders in the conflict.
Like senior barrister Ashley said, the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, they are on the neutral ground. Mm-hmm. They're practically not facing the government. They are not facing the separatists. Mm-hmm. They're on a neutral ground. They want the government and the separatists to come to a table. That's I think they are playing the role of a negotiator.
Yeah, but the question is, they are playing the role of the negotiator.
Yes.
The bullet now is towards the international community that please come and get these two guys to the table. Mm-hmm. But what I'm asking is, why not point the bullet at the government and the separatists?
Because every effort made earlier has failed.
Okay.
Every effort, because you don't tell me that it's a coalition for dialogue and negotiation that has come with the initiative of bringing the government and the separatists on the table. They are not the first. I'm sure they must have studied the crisis for these 5 years, seen the effort of other groups and civil societies to bring the government and the separatists on the table. It has been futile. So now they are negotiating the international community to come in as a higher authority, because based on their studies and their analyses, all other efforts have failed. It's like they are trying to approach the crisis from another angle where others have attempted and failed. That's their approach. So bringing these bodies together, they feel like within these bodies there are also personalities, because you're talking about the Refugee Council, the Presbyterian Church in America, the what in Australia. That is just the name of an organization. We don't know the kind of personalities that consist of those organizations that can press button within the circle of their nations to bring many nations to come together and press either the UN or press either Francophonie or Commonwealth to come into the crisis and solve the problem. So I think their approach is a bit different from all the approach by many other parties who have attempted to bring the crisis to an end. That's what I think. Now, for them to have come through this strategy, I think theirs is mounting more pressure as compared to other groups and civil societies that have attempted to bring the government and the separatists on a consensus. So their approach to me, the investment that they are carrying to bring these personalities from different angles of the world together is huge and heavy. Like I said the last time here, the Canadian government and the Cameroonian government are the two countries that belong to La Francophonie and Commonwealth, and the Canadian government has the capacity to pull many countries from La Francophonie as well as Commonwealth to bring them together to lobby with the UN or probably one of the organizations to bring the crisis to an end. But since the Coalition for Dialogue is going to this extent of bringing these personalities from different organizations together, they are approaching the same crisis from another angle, while others have attempted and failed.
Okay,
Yes.
they are attempting from different angles. Now, should others engage in other actions to fast track the halting of the crisis? It is true the coalition for dialogue and negotiation is ongoing. They are going to push on. We are not too sure whether what they are gunning for is going to bear fruits. But should other persons also at different levels engage in other actions that seek to stop the violence in the southwest and northwest region?
Yes, it's very important. It doesn't matter who is trying to do what, as long as it's positive energy and positive thinking to solve the problem is very welcome. And that's why it's not a competition. It's not a competition. You know, we are all, everybody is pulling on this. It's a tug of war. Everybody's pulling on this string, and or it's a car that is stuck in mud, and everybody's pushing that car. It doesn't matter if you're a little kid or a woman or who. You know, one cannot say your efforts are useless. So it's a collective effort, and in fact, the most important thing it is the goodwill that is more important in solving this problem, and. You know, when Senior Barrister Ashu was speaking, it's like, oh, yeah, ours is the greatest, and the cardinal is nothing, is child's play. That's condescending in his approach, and it is these ego problems that usually kill something in the knob. You don't know what the President Paul Biya is thinking. You don't know what is going on. Then you talk as you are the one who is going to bring him to the table to do. No, you're not. So it's good. It doesn't matter what you say. Be humble. Humility pays, and when you don't give chance, when you're not humble, then something that is good ends up being spoiled. So in everything that we do, you know, you don't hold the ace. Be humble, and in as much as the world is going to put pressure, you know, we are gathering, like you say, the storms are gathering around the world to put pressure on somebody to do something. So technically, it is that somebody on whom the world is going to put pressure that carries the weight for solving the problems. And therefore, you can use soft power or what, and soft power is just emotional intelligence. And I'm saying that while you are aware of what the cardinal did before the major national dialogue, and it stopped and it phased out from the public view, though he phased out from the public view and was not making noise about it, you don't know the work that he had been doing in the background before his last days, and we should be very humble. Thank you.
Okay, but now you are working with the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation alongside Justice Aya Paul Bini. That's what you said.
Yep.
You are in a commission. He is also in a commission. Would you also want to see other persons, other groupings, other agencies involved in moving things towards an end to the conflict?
Why not? They say many roads lead to Rome. We hear of the Ghana Peace Initiative. If you can bring peace to Cameroon, why not? I said earlier here, it is not the coalition that is going to negotiate. I have the impression my good friend misunderstood me. We are not going to negotiate. We are not going to engage the government. We are contacting people who will do that, who have the leverage to do that, because we see that they are not our level. We are very far down there, and like Apostle Ambe said, other initiatives have failed. So we are, you see, when I talk each time of Big Brother, you say, you come again with Big Brother. Yes, we are looking for Big Brothers, the people who have sufficient leverage to talk to them and they will hear. That is what we are doing.
Big Brother, so, what many persons may not understand.
The guys who call the shots in the world.
People like the gendarmes of the world. The police people of the world are the gendarmes. So, you see.
But do you also consider the geopolitics that may have to come in play when we talk about this, especially considering that most of these decisions will have to pass through the United Nations Security Council and knowing its members?
Mr. Liu.
Oh, you are also working with
Mr.
them?
Liu,
Yeah.
what I have to tell you is that the work that the coalition did is so far-reaching that the coalition anticipated all the possible scenarios in the peace process.
Okay.
Anticipated all and came out with technical solutions. You see, if all we need is for these people to come to the table, all the groundwork has been done. It's just that this is not a forum where those type of things have to be exposed. Everything has been done. So what we are doing now is just convincing the people who can bring the two parties to the table to get the ball rolling.
That is what you say, but you need to convince both sides to trust in what you are doing, because many other persons have spoken.
Of course.
But we've seen on both sides, people think that their positions are the best.
Yes. The fact that the coalition for dialogue is on a neutral ground is going to face it very hard, because the government has a stand, the separatists have a stand, and a neutral man cannot solve what these people hold as their own philosophies. The separatists want separation, and every other effort put before them to convince them to even come to a dialogue first before even proposing the secession, they are not willing. They are coming on a platform to come and discuss separation. They don't want anything attached to it. That's how bad it is. If I thought they too were neutral, and then they say, okay, let us come to the table, and then from there we can now conclude on what we will decide, it would have been better. But it would appear the moment you stand to speak something even a bit away from that secession a bit, you become an enemy. So it becomes very difficult. Now imagine that if the Coalition for Dialogue organizes a webinar and brings these separatists on board and try to propose that, please, we will not want you guys to go on the table with any intention.
But they were there.
They were there. Ayabacho spoke.
Yeah, but they were there. But
what was their stand?
They are saying that you are working for Coalition for Surrender. That's how you were described.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm letting you understand. That there are people you will never bring on the table without them coming with an original intention. And you can only convince somebody who is willing to take to what you are going to submit. Let us go to the table and discuss. We know you want secession. I want unity. But let us go to the table. We are not going to that table until they've accepted to secede.
Is that? But you are now coming back to the question where I said, why would the coalition not direct its weapons to the government officials and the separatists, so that you start convincing them? Because without convincing them, if you were to bring them on the table, it will be a waste of time.
That is
because each person is going to come from the perspective.
That's what I'm telling you. That the fact that the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation happens to be on a neutral ground and is meeting a people who have already a philosophy established that you cannot convince them out of it. They are not coming to that table to discuss anything. They are coming to that table to conclude what they already believe. And that's how difficult it is. But if I thought they were to come on that table with a neutral intention, saying that, okay, there are three things in question. There is secession on ground, there is federalism on ground, there is confederation on ground, and there is unity on ground. And the government also came with these four forms of the state on that platform. And then they can now discuss and see which one is better for the entire nation, for the well-being of the people. It would have been better. But you see, the government is not willing to sit down because the government says we are coming on that table without any secession as part of the agenda. The secessionists also say we are coming on that table if secession is not part of the agenda, we are not coming on that table. So you see, the ends are very stiff. Both ends are very tension. So he that stands in the middle is the one who is suffering, because the middle can only relax if both ends of the cord are relaxed. So the man who stands in the middle to negotiate these two persons come, either you will take a side to pull this man closer, or you will take this side. But if you're on a neutral ground, the government has given a stand that we are not coming on the table if secession is part of the agenda. These guys also say, if you are saying that we should not come with secession, we are not coming. So who goes to stand in between the two of those persons? It's difficult. The problem is this person should come on the table without any intention. And let us now submit now the different forms of the state and see how or which one will be better for us to manage that will help every citizen. Because I think that the ego of a few individuals are killing the lives of so many persons. There are persons in that same Anglophone region that if you give them a chance, will accept confederation. There are also persons in the government, if you give them a chance, will accept federalism. But now a few persons have tensioned the cord on both sides because they are holding on to something that is jeopardizing the life of few individuals.
Richard, do you understand the background from which Apostle is coming from?
Absolutely. I was, when he was talking, I was really itchy to come in, but I think towards the end of his intervention, he mentioned something that I was thinking about, because the problem we have here is that we seem to be limiting this problem to be a problem of secessionists or separatists, or a problem of a group of people who call themselves leaders of the Ambazonian movement, or so to speak. I know we are going to get into that topic, Leonard, but it becomes very difficult and very complex for us handling this issue without looking at the fact that this issue is a broader issue than the separatists. And therefore, we should not limit this, any negotiation that the Coalition for Dialogue is making, that is limited to the separatists, and keep a broad section of Anglophones out of it. It's a dialogue that is doomed to fail. Because as soon as that group or negotiation is made with that group, there is another group too that will come up with their own complaint. The group who do not abide by the issue of secession or separation or whatsoever. So therefore, I think that they should. I have said that this issue is an issue of on the one hand and the government on the other hand. It is not a national issue, neither is it an Ambazonia versus government issue. So the coalition should handle this with a lot of care. Otherwise, they'll be digging one hole, they'll be filling one hole by digging another hole. So they should be very careful, because we have individuals who have the interest, individuals in the so-called Ambazonian movement who have their interest, and do see anywhere how their interest is going to, or they're going to satisfy their interest outside an independent Ambazonia, and therefore will not accept any negotiation that go outside that independent. And so for that reason, like Apostle and they said, they are holding the rest of us hostage, and therefore I would think that this thing should be handled with some kind of carrot and stick approach. Some kind of carrot and stick approach should be used on both sides, on the side of the government and on the side of the Ambazonia, so that they should know the consequences of their actions if they try to stall negotiations.
Okay, not only quite complex here.
No, it's not as complex as it sounds. It's very easy. It's just that, you know, we go into some fine detail and then it looks very crazy, but it's not as crazy as it looks. That said, you know, who would be coming to the dialogue table? 30 to 35% of that dialogue person will be made of the government. 30 to 35% would be from the diaspora. 30 to 30, that's Anglophones from the diaspora. 30 to 35% would be Anglophones who are here on the ground. So those are the people who will be pulled to that table. And like Ndifo was saying, like everyone here is saying, we had a major national dialogue which failed, and we are learning our lessons from that failure to craft something that will be better. And this time we are not going to have a major national dialogue because it's not national. It's a dialogue between the government and the Anglophones, un point, un trait, to solve the Anglophone problems. Then the nation has many other problems. There will be many other dialogues that will be organized to solve the other dialogues. It will be a season of dialogues, but the major, how do you say it? The greatest of dialogues, which is meant to solve the greatest of problems in the nation, is the dialogue that will be pitting the government and the Anglophones. And as I said, you will have these three groups coming together. Now, we've been talking a lot and getting so dispersed and so on. There are only three positions. There is decentralization, which came out of the major national dialogue with something called special status that has failed woefully. It's not working, and that's why the problems are continuing. Then there is cessation, which is something that needs to be debated and understood and agreed on or laid aside, but at least it should be talked about. It's not a taboo. It will be talked about, and then reason will be brought to those who want it or not, to understand what is the best way forward for the nation. Then that middle ground that everybody is talking about, it's federation or confederation. They look like the two sides of the same page. It's just that there are some little crosses that make one different from the other. And the most important thing, again, before I give back the microphone, is that at the end of the dialogue, which the president is working on, there's going to be reconciliation in the nation, and there will be unity, and the operating system of the nation will be changed. The political how do I say it? The way politics is practiced in our nation is going to be changed, so that we have this hate speech will be dealt with. We will look very closely at our economic machinery, how we carry out economics, how we carry out development in the nation, and a lot is going to change. A lot is going to change, and so that we begin to have good governance in our nation. Because if we step back a little and find out why do we have these problems in the first place, it is because of bad governance, and that bad governance has to be corrected. And even as we will go into this dialogue and whatever we are saying, let us go back and visit the speech or the declarations of President Paul Biya in Paris when he was with Mr. Mo Ibrahim. What did he say? He said that over the years, what the Francophone government has been trying to do, they have been trying to muzzle the Anglophones and change them to become Francophone, so to speak. And it was an experiment that did not work, and it was about time to let them be who they are. That was the major statement, and that's what we should be hanging on, and that's what we will do. And it's unfortunate, like I've said before, he was making this statement about 3 or 4 months after the major national dialogue had gone on. And you see, when the people who had organized the major national dialogue were going to that hall, they were going into the hall with the idea of just moving the highly centralized government to something that they call decentralization, which did not really answer the problems. And therefore, in their objectives, they made it look washy-washy, and that's why it failed. But this time around, there's no room for failure, and we're going to make it work. So, in as much as it looks very complex, we are only going to examine that decentralization and understand it very well. We're going to examine that cessation and explain why it's not possible, or why it's possible and why there are difficulties, and then understand what that middle ground is and see what we can take from there that will make the nation grow.
We are going to take a short break. When we come, we look at our second topic for tonight. Before moving on to our second topic for tonight, Senior Barrister, you had something to add?
Yes, Mr. Leo. See, 2 days ago when I was here, I said if negotiations were to start, all the fears of many people would be swept away, and they thought some people thought that it was a joke, and I think I'll have to demonstrate that here now. You see, from what Apostle Ambe said and from what Dr. Nick said, you can see that there is still this impression that there are people fighting. From the work that the coalition has done, it is not a matter of people. The first thing we have to determine is who are the parties to the negotiation. The parties are not separatists and the government. The parties are states. The state of Cameroon and the state of Southern Cameroons. Now, when you determine that one, we go now to representation. It is not separatists representing. Who represents Southern Cameroons? They are no longer, there's no prime minister, is dead. The government no longer exists. Who represents? You now have to tackle the problem of a referendum. The people have to decide as to who their representation will be. You see, it is not all those people who think that they will sit somewhere and dictate their will. They will be taken off back because they will not have the opportunity. You will have to go back to the people and ask them, who do you want to represent you?
But they have the guns, sir.
Excuse me, those who have the guns are also part of the people. They are also part of the people. If you accept the principle that the people should be consulted so that they say we are sending X, Y, Z to go represent us, then the man who has a gun cannot force himself on the table, because the people are the people are legitimate. The people are they are the ones who choose. If they had
one gunshot would
we earlier said that negotiation should not take place inside here. They should be on a neutral ground where no party should be able to influence the other. So they will not be.
If there are people on ground with guns, senior barrister, and people leave from the northwest and southwest regions to a neutral ground to do the negotiation, without the leaders, as you are saying here, would they go back to their localities?
No, sir, don't misunderstand me. I said the people will decide who their representatives will be. I did not say X will go, this will not go. The people, the population will decide. If the population decides to send one of the generals, is there a choice? It is their choice. If they decide to send one of the Cameroonians of diaspora who are fueling the war, it is their choice.
Senior barrister, I want us to be clear on something. You say it is going to be a negotiation between two states. That's
yes,
what you're
yes, saying. Sir.
Is that what the Coalition for Dialogue is working for?
I am just telling you. Okay. I don't think there's any person who can contradict me on that.
As we, is the conflict between two states?
The conflict is between two states. The other day, my brother here asked me where resolution 1608 was. Go back to that resolution and see who are the parties. It is two states. So we are asking them to go back, because the problem here is an unfinished business of the UN. Let them finish that business by carrying out that negotiation that they ought to have carried.
Senior barrister, I want us to be clear. You say it is a conflict between two states as we speak.
Yes, sir.
Who is the president of one of the states and who is the president of the other state?
Well, the president of the Republic of Cameroon is Mr. Biya. The president of Southern Cameroon had a government that has phased out. The prime minister at that time was Anglophone. You know it very well. I mentioned here the other day that Southern Cameroon had a constitution. Excuse me.
Who is the president leading the conflict from Southern Cameroon now?
I said the government of Southern Cameroon no longer existing. The people will have to choose a representation. That's what I said.
Okay.
Now we are coming. I'm not yet done, because Dr. Nick said here that the government is arranging something, and it will be the government on one side and Anglophones on the other side. Sir, Anglophones are not an entity. The entity here is the state of Southern Cameroon. It is not Anglophones. Anglophones are not an entity. So the government cannot sit with Anglophones. That is, look, if we go back to his reference to Mo Ibrahim asked the president a question, and he said, we have tried to assimilate those Anglophones and failed. If you have tried assimilation and it failed, don't you see that pitching the government against Anglophones is a continuation of assimilation? You cannot continue what the president himself has said has failed. So let us be honest to ourselves. There are two states. One has been put under a table. Bring it back. Let the people send their legitimate representation, and we go on with the negotiations.
Okay. We move on to our second topic for tonight. I'll start with you, Senior barrister. I'm yet to understand all this. Yeah, you say two states. Yes, I want us to understand, is the Anglophone problem same as the Ambazonian problem?
Yes, it's the same problem with two different approaches.
Okay.
All Anglophones are crying for marginalization, and that's the same thing the Ambazonians are crying. The truth is, we all have the same challenge, but it's our approach that separates these two personalities. The Ambazonians are approaching the marginalization from the angle of arms and the one separation. The Anglophones in general are agitating for against marginalization with negotiation for better opportunities in the country. So one man wants separation, another man wants his condition to change, because the agitation was that we're not giving opportunities in certain privileges in the country. So we are agitating for these opportunities to be restored.
If I may ask you, simply put, are you an Anglophone or you are an Ambazonian?
I'm an Anglophone in Cameroon.
But you just said it's the same thing.
That's what I'm saying, that a group of persons, the general challenge is marginalization. Within the group of these people who are being marginalized, two factions have separated, they are broken. One side is talking about better conditions and privileges in the same country, while others are asking for separation. So one group have tagged themselves Ambazonia, even though they are Anglophones, and others have remained Anglophones or Southern Cameroonians, and they are pressing for better opportunities. So how will put it, all Anglophones are Southern Cameroonians, but not all Anglophones are Ambazonians.
For Richard. For Richard. Yes. How do we create that clear distinction? Are all Anglophones Ambazonians?
I would say that Ambazonian is a subset of Anglophones.
Okay.
Anglophones have a problem, and within those Anglophones, we have a group of people who want separation, and this group of people call themselves Ambazonia. So Ambazonia is a subset of Anglophones, and that is where my argument has been all along, that a subset cannot control the whole. It's like saying that the Northwest goes to represent Cameroon, or put itself as the governor of the Northwest put itself as the representative of Cameroon, when the president of the Republic of Cameroon is still there. So Ambazonia is a subset of Anglophone. There is a broader Anglophone community, and within that broader Anglophone community, we have a subset which is the Ambazonians. We also have another subset which are the federalists, and then we have also, maybe we can call them decentralized, the people within the decentralized unitary state. So Ambazonia is not a entity, so to speak. And just to take from where this issue, I'm getting some noise. I don't know whether.
No, go on. We're getting you. Go on.
All right.
Yeah.
So just to take from where Barrister Ashu came, when he was talking, I was just laughing because I just want to hope that that is his view and not the view of the Coalition for Dialogue. I'm sorry for taking us back there, because when we start having that kind of idea that we are talking about two states, I don't know whether there is any state within the United Nations organization known as Southern Cameroons. I don't think we have that. We have Anglophones. Anglophones is the entity, that is the group. Those are the people who have a problem. Those people have a problem, and then within those group of people, a subset of that group says that this is how they want the solution to be. And so that is where I come to the fact that for any real solution to be found, we have to look at this entity as a whole, and therefore treat it as a whole that it is, and not treat it as if it is Ambazonia. I don't think if we go to do a statistics, we will see every single Anglophone belonging to the Ambazonian option, or maybe there is nothing to suggest that the majority of Anglophones will be on the side of Ambazonia. So therefore, I think that there is a clear distinction between Ambazonia and Anglophones. And my distinction is that Ambazonian is a subset of the Anglophone community.
Okay, Dr. Nick Ngwanam, can we understand what the Anglophone problem is, away from the Ambazonian problem?
Yes, but before I answer that question, let me try to just follow up on what Ndifo was saying. Mm-hmm. Now, if we take, let's go back in time to 2016 when the problem was starting. The secessionists were very few in numbers, and they didn't raise up their voices, and there was this problem of marginalization that needed the attention of the government, that needed a solution. And if the government had done what was right at that time, we would not be where we are today. So as the problem continued to grow like a wildfire, then a lot of some of the people became very angry, and they picked up guns, and they were looking for something now more than that middle ground called cessation, and to make to or restoration or whatever, and therefore they gave themselves that name Ambazonians, so that when you say Ambazonians now, it's synonymous to cessation, okay, and therefore it's a subset of people who have moved away from that middle point to that extreme tense position that Apostle Ambe was describing. So that's who they are. But Ambazonia doesn't refer to all Anglophones. Back to your question, you said I should.
What is the Anglophone problem?
What is the Anglophone problem? I thought I talked about it, but let me simplify it again. And let's call a spade a spade. The Anglophone problem is born out of poor governance, is born out of marginalization. That is what has caused the Anglophone problem. The Anglophone problems is born out of greed, in the sense that we all live in one country, and a people who speak English. And let me, before I continue, the Anglophone problem is not a language problem. Let's be very careful. When you make it a language problem, then you simplify it. The Anglophone problem is a problem of how a people are looked at, a people are managed within a whole, and these people had an identity, and somewhere someone is trying to steal that identity from them, give them a name that is not theirs, give them an identity that is not theirs, and make them slaves in their own house. That is the problem. And therefore, people who had been used to solving their own problems are faced with someone telling them when they should eat and telling them when they should make love to their wives. That's the problem. It's like, you know, the Anglophone is someone who was proactive and could think for himself and solve his own problems. But we work with a people who have to sit and take instructions from a DO or an SDO before they sweep their yards. And therefore, we are dealing with two people who think differently and who have different worldviews on life. And one, the Francophone, rightly or wrongly, thinks that the Anglophone is second class. He is primitive. He is not up to anything. And then the Anglophone is beaten and kicked around. And therefore, it just causes this general anger. And then the Anglophone says, I don't understand. I'm getting kicked around here. Can someone just let me be who I am? And then no one wants to give them that room. And that is the picture. That is what the president was talking about when he was with Mo Ibrahim in Paris. These people, for the last 50, 60 years, we've been trying to make them become Francophones, think like us, wear one thinking cap like us, wear the same uniform with us. But we are not having a headway with that. And probably it's about time that we let them be who they are.
Okay. Daisy writing from Kumba says, good evening everyone in the house, and a special one to you, Mr. Liu. Good evening to you, Daisy, and good evening to you. To Sumbele Kelvin writing from Kongsamba, he says, good evening Mr. Liu and your wonderful panelists. I want to ask Dr. Nick and Senior Barrister Ashu if they are really confident that the form of state will be accepted to be examined in the dialogue they are talking about. Secondly, if the people in prison will be released to attend the dialogue. No, yeah.
Yes, of course. Like I said before, we've said it several times that the Anglophone problem, what is the key? What is the solution to the Anglophone problem? The solution to the Anglophone problem is the form of state. Define the form of state very clearly, and the Anglophone problem is solved. 90% of the Anglophone problem is the form of state. If you're going to have any dialogue and you don't discuss the form of state, then you didn't have a dialogue.
Okay.
And that's it. And of course, the people who are in prison will be part of the dialogue. There's no question.
Good evening to you, Bisong. Cassandra, who should be watching us from somewhere around Douala here. Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel. How do we make a distinction between the Ambazonian problem and the Anglophone problem?
Mr. Leo, I'm really surprised that many of us criticize this present government, even go as far as insulting the government, whereas this government knows our problem better than us. I hear people saying that Southern Cameroons, maybe a taboo in their ears. This government, in the family code, when they were defining when they were giving the definition of a Cameroonian, you remember Article 114, family code. It went to the parliament, it went to the Senate. I don't know whether it has passed already. Who is a Cameroonian? A citizen who, to be a Cameroonian, you must either have originated from the Republic of Cameroon, which attained its independence in 1960, 1st of January 1960, or from Southern Cameroon, which attained its independence on the 1st of October 1961. That is definition of Cameroonian given by this government that people are criticizing. Yet, people, the Southern Cameroonians themselves, they are afraid to say they are Southern Cameroonians. You want to go on negotiation table, you are afraid to say you have a state that the government itself recognizes. Mr. Biya himself in Boya, history will have it that Boya was the capital of Southern Cameroons. Go to the constitution, the present 1996 constitution. What does it say in Article 68? I mean, I don't understand people. Are you afraid of your shadows? I don't understand. You have a state. The government has recognized in the family code that to be a Cameroonian you must originate either from the Republic of Cameroon or for Southern Cameroons. Granted, you people don't like Resolution 1608, but this is a government telling you that to be a Cameroonian you should originate either from the Republic of Cameroon, which obtained its independence on the 1st of January 1960, or from Southern Cameroon, which obtained its independence on the 1st of October 1961. That's the government telling you. But you people who are concerned, you say no, we prefer to call ourselves Anglophones. Mr. Leo, let me tell you, I am not an Anglophone. I am a Southern Cameroonian. I'm a Cameroonian today because I originate from Southern Cameroons. I heard Mr. Ndifo say he hopes that was my personal opinion. That is the law here. The government itself has recognized that there was something. We should be true to ourselves. Those are historical facts. Why do we have to shelve them under the table?
Okay.
So the question you asked, see, I don't know where this Ambazonia thing. We should not leave the real state and go in for conjecture.
Okay. Because,
like somebody analyzed here, Ambazonia was brought on the table just to depict secession. Because when you say Southern Cameroon, you come into legality. The state of Southern Cameroon voted to obtain independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. But when you go to Ambazonia, it does not exist anywhere. It exists nowhere. Ambazonia depicts complete separation.
That's what I said.
Complete separation. So I am not an Ambazonian. I am a Southern Cameroonian.
Good. You're talking now.
I'm talking now. I said the coalition wants that the concerned parties, who are the two states, should be on the table. Not the government of Cameroon and Anglophones. Anglophones are not an entity. They are not a state.
Good.
And to determine who has to be on that table, there has to be a referendum. You cannot, Ashu, cannot sit and say, because I'm senior by the statute, let me go and represent. No, sir, I have no mandate. The people have to give a clear mandate to the people in whom they have confidence to go represent them.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, which says, who speaks for the Anglophones? Though you say you are more comfortable with the appellation Southern Cameroonians. Who speaks for them? How do you get legitimacy to be able to talk on behalf of Anglophones? I'm talking about the people of the Southwest and Northwest regions. That is what legally these regions, that is how they are described today.
An Anglophone is not him that speaks English. An Anglophone is someone that originates from either the northwest or the southwest of this country.
Yes.
Because there are many people from Western region who are speaking the English language. There are many from center. So if you want to address an Anglophone based on language, then there are many Anglophones in Yaoundé, many Anglophones in Bafisa.
No, but I'm sure he made that very clear. He said earlier on that an Anglophone is someone who is from the southwest or northwest region. That is what Dr. Nick said.
An Anglophone is someone.
Is that not what I said?
No. An Anglophone is not defined by language.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
It's a sociological term which refers to a people, but not the people who speak a language.
That's what I was
refers to
saying,
a people who it refers to that person who has 100% or 50% genetic material coming from that territory of southern Cameroon.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Yes. How do we get legitimacy to be able to talk on behalf of Anglophones?
The state of West Cameroon came because the people in question selected their leaders. And I think legitimacy to stand to speak on behalf of those people this day should be the same thing. The people are supposed to be the one to choose their representatives. In true democracy, it is the people that choose their representatives. Somebody cannot superimpose himself. Somebody cannot head a revolution and insist to be. I'm sure the persons in Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon automatically know the persons that can stand to represent them.
Correct.
And they are the ones that will say, okay, today we unanimously vote this person to go and stand based on experience we have gathered from them. We know they can properly represent us and give us an opportunity that we will not enter again into the mess we were initially. For instance, it was the people who voted people like Foncha, people like the Joas, the Indelis, and the Munas in those days. Now, they gave their vote of confidence to those persons whom they later on said they betrayed them. They are still very much alive to sit down because almost everybody in those two regions are very aware of the fact that they are going through a crisis. And they know the individuals who have come up to speak, the others who have been standing at the forefront. If they choose to pick individuals tomorrow randomly amongst themselves to go and stand and represent them on any negotiation table, then I think it is their basic right as citizens from those two regions to make such choices. But you see, I am saying that this particular situation has been hijacked by a few individuals who have superimposed themselves as leaders and might not even have the idea and the energy and the skill to navigate the crisis to a place of a peaceful resolution. And that's the reason why a lot of people have jumped into it, because why? The thing has a lot of angles. And sometimes when you hear people who are going to represent us, they don't even have the capacity to drive out the revolution to where it's supposed to go. Just because somebody stood up, it's called situational leadership. A situation came out, somebody just jumped into it, we choose to make him a leader, not because he has the competence and the skill enough to manage the crisis. So I think we should fall back and ask the masses, for the years of experience this thing, you have all seen the stakeholders who have been at the forefront. Who are the persons you think are sane enough to go and stand and then broker a deal for us that will give us the privilege and the rights we lost so many years ago, and to give us the chance to stand back as a people in their own land and to enjoy the rights and duties of every citizen. So it's the people of Southern Cameroon, from the northwest and the southwest, from such origins, that can stand to tell us that, okay, we select Dr. Ningwanya, we select Senior Barrister Achu, we select this person to go and stand and represent us in any dialogue or any negotiation, because we have ascertained or studied their lives and we discover they have the sanity and the skill, they have the expertise and the energy to stand and represent us in such a way that we will not enter again to any mess. Therefore, an individual to sit at the diaspora and because he has a gang of boys shooting gun and say that he is a person that's supposed to stand for it doesn't make sense. Because every time we talk about negotiation, we say they should call the people who are pushing the guns in the diaspora. The people who are pushing the guns in the diaspora may not even have the initiative enough to arrange this crisis to the extent we will come out of it.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Congratulations on this program. I wish to extend my words of appreciation to Dr. Nick and the barrister for calling a spade and pronouncing the words out in Cameroons. I like this panel. They are firebrand speakers. Kudos to you all. This one says, please, Asha, for work, I have very much like Dr. Nick. With his permission, can I get his number? There you have Dr. Nick's number. D4 of Ferdinand, you follow. Can you follow up with what Apostle Ambe just said? We are talking about legitimacy. Is that not where the greatest problem is? Because we saw when it was announced that the government was engaging in talks with Ayuk Tabe, who is now incarcerated. There are factions that said he has no legitimacy to speak on behalf of these people. And today we have other persons who are engaging. The Biafrans to say we are engaging on behalf of, I don't know whether it's Ambazonia or Anglophones. We have Sako, who says, I am the legitimate person who has legitimacy to talk on behalf of the people. Is that not also where the bigger problem is? Seemingly, the likes, seemingly the likes of late Kanatumi, we have Senior Barrister Ashu, who is here on ground. I'm sure Apostle Ambe, Dr. Nick, all of them were on ground. If they were to say we want to speak on behalf of the people, they will say, please go and sit down somewhere.
Absolutely. We have seen several times these individuals talk down on people. There was a time, even when Cardinal Tumi came up with his initiative initially, he was blasted, he was insulted, and somebody like Dr. Forgotten the name, the guy who was with Cardinal Tumi, he was intimidated to the extent that he had to back out.
Dr. Simon Muzu.
And it brings the question as to who gave who legitimacy to speak on behalf of the Anglophones. That is a very thorny issue that so many people seem to overlook. We seem not to ask the question as to who, because the moment we start engaging people who do not represent the wishes and aspirations of Anglophones, and we say that they should speak on behalf of Anglophones, that will be creating another problem. And like I said, we have to be very careful not to dig one hole to fill in another. So these individuals who claim to be speaking on behalf of Anglophones, these are the same individuals who keep on asking the question, who gave you the legitimacy to speak on behalf of Anglophones? And it leaves me with the question as to who gave them the legitimacy to speak on the behalf of Anglophones? Because as far as I'm concerned, there was no election anywhere to elect these guys, or any nomination, so to speak, to nominate these guys to speak on behalf of Anglophones. These are self-imposed leaders. People who just impose themselves and intimidating any other person around them, and not even accepting people to even voice their opinion. And I want to think that any right-thinking Anglophone will not want such an individual to represent their interest in any meaningful dialogue. I don't think any Anglophones will expect somebody who is so intolerant to respect to represent their interests. So, like Barrister or like Apostle Ambe said, we need, I don't know how this is going to be, but there needs to be some kind of consultation on the ground. Consultation on the ground to get the people's opinion. And such a consultation should be free and fair. What do I mean by it being free and fair? Because it is easy to say that, oh, you go down there and will get people, and they come again with their guns and intimidate people to make choices that is not even that do not reflect their real choices. So, as a matter of fact, we have to be very clear. People should be free. People should be allowed to freely choose who they want to represent them, as far as the Anglophones are concerned, to speak on behalf of the Anglophones. And nobody whatsoever should impose itself. As a matter of fact, let me reiterate that as far as I'm concerned, and I don't know, maybe many other people, the individuals who call themselves leaders of the Anglophones, they are not leaders of the Anglophone. We didn't put them there as the leaders of Anglophone. They don't represent my interests. They don't represent my interests, so to speak. So as a matter of fact, there should be a coordinated effort to get the representative of Anglophones. Otherwise, we might be trying to solve a problem by creating another problem.
Okay, this one I want, Mr. Liu, appreciate your program. So many facts are being jumbled up. Thank Barrister Issue by calling a spade a spade. I want you people to understand that, but for the people in the diaspora, you will not be there discussing the Southern Cameroon's issue. Ignatius is writing from Bamenda. Ignatius, I don't know why this always comes up. I'm sure this whole issue was started here in Cameroon by the likes of Barrister Nkomo Felix Agbo and a host of others who are still on ground. So I don't know what you mean by if not of the diaspora. We will not be discussing what we are discussing here. Why are moderate leaders, those who don't buy into the separatist thoughts or agenda, like you say, why are they always threatened and treated with disdain? We saw the treatment that was reserved for Dr. Simon Muzu, late Cardinal Tumi, and a host of others.
Well, it's understandable when you are in a world where there are bullies. It's just bullying.
Yeah, because we are talking about a people.
Yeah.
We are talking about people from the northwest and southwest regions, Anglophone, Southern Cameroonians.
Yeah.
However, we look at them. Do they not also have a right to state their positions?
Of course they do. They do, and that's why this representation is very, very important to deal with, because we're going through something that we don't really understand. When people carry guns and then they start bullying everyone else, that's where the problem lies. If there were no guns in the equation, then we would be seeing clearly. But as you know, there've been people running around with guns, and now they have even left the Anglophone problem. Now they're not fighting for the Anglophone problem, and it has metamorphosed to something else with all these kidnappings. The war economy and dogs of war phenomenon has come in now to change even what they are fighting for. But that said, before you take the microphone, I think it's very important that we discuss this issue of representation. It's very, very important, because the way things are on the ground now, the CPDM has taken up everything, and it's not because people have been elected, so to speak, and working in the name of the CPDM in former West Cameroon that they are actually representative of the people. And those our elites and people in government and so on, many of them have their own personal agendas, and they don't speak the minds of the people, and that's why we are in the mess in which we are. And therefore it will be very important to look at this question of representation very well, so that when that time comes, we don't see these very elites who were at the major national dialogue and are carried over again into this other dialogue. It will be a failure before we even started.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Liu, and greetings to you guys. I want to send these special greetings to Dr. Nick, my icon. If there is one Cameroonian I admire and adore, should be you, sir. Keep on, and God bless you. Keep being frank and objective as always. K. Ferdinand Langai, writing from Bomenda, you say, why are you never reading my messages, sir? I've been writing severally, but you have never read my message. The messages are so many. I've read it today at least. Now, how do we get every Anglophone, every citizen from the northwest and southwest region, or you say Southern Cameroon, feel free to express themselves the way they desire and be able to know what they want?
Thank you, Mr. Liu. There can be no negotiations without a ceasefire.
Okay.
Because when you listen to the other panelists, they tell you somebody is wielding a gun, somebody is carrying a gun. You cannot carry out negotiations when people are still armed, when there are still hostilities in the field. There must be an unconditional ceasefire. And that is the reason why we say we are knocking on the doors of big brothers, so that they bring the pressure to bear on the warring parties to implement an unconditional ceasefire. Because if those big men are out there say stop fighting and nobody wants to stop fighting, they will say, okay, if you don't have weapons, you will not fight. They have the means to stop the flow of arms and make sure that none of the warring parties has whatever he will use to go and kill his brother. So you see, it is very important that there be put in place a ceasefire before any negotiations have to start.
Okay. This is von Slaro from Bomenda. God bless Dr. Nick. My only problem with him is that he is still supporting President Paul Biya. Good evening, Mr. Liu and crew. Please, can Dr. Nick, as learned as he is, tell us which dictionary refers to Anglophone as an entity or a people, rather those who speak English? Secondly, can he, as a medical doctor, give the right treatment to a patient who gives a wrong description of what he is suffering from? When you talk about greed, remember that anyone who refuses to speak the truth because of personal interest is greedy. Okay, you did not give me your name.
Can I answer to him? What exactly does he want?
I don't know. Mr. Leo, good evening. I beg to know if government has announced the holding of any dialogue and this whole thing of coalition for peace. Who are they? Please say hi to Apostle Ambe. Extend my number to him. I would like to get his number. Please, can you just write me after the program? I'll send you Apostle Ambe's number. Hello, good evening to everyone in the show. Interesting program, but in an unrealistic nation, the simple fact to me is, how do the people get a representative at the level of displacement we are facing? It will be a waste of time as the former dialogue. Okay, we are getting out of time.
Can I just answer that little question?
Okay.
Just 2 minutes. Now listen, you know, there's a sociological definition of terms here. It's very important for us to understand what we mean when we say Anglophone, because when you don't define it, you know, when you don't define that term in context, a lot of smart people would derail you. You know, when we started saying that we had an Anglophone problem, I remember Minister Issa Chiroma, he would say, I speak English very well, my daughters speak English very well, they are Anglophones, you know, just to create problems. And then when we say we are talking about the Anglophone problem, then let's go back to our villages. We have our grandmothers and grandparents who don't speak English, but they are Anglophones. And like someone was saying, there are many Bamilekes and so on, people in Yaoundé who speak English, and they are Anglophones when you use the dictionary definition. So we are using a sociological definition here and coining that word to mean something else very specifically for us. An Anglophone is someone who originates from the northwest or southwest region, or from that territory called Southern Cameroons. And when you say originate, you mean you can trace 50% or 100% of his genetic material to that area.
Okay, good evening to you, Abdul Karim Ali. You call the people on this platform clowns. We are glad to have that description. We hope that indeed we are clowns. I think that it's also part of democracy. You have
Mr. Leo, what has happened to my friend?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, he described people as
he's a Muslim scholar, and he's not supposed to insult people during Ramadan.
Yeah, it's okay. We hope.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
we have to tell him, because it looks like
say it on the microphone.
He looks like the clown here, because a Muslim of his level should respect the rules of his religion and not insult people during Ramadan, which is a holy month.
Okay.
Let me come in here. Whether being a Muslim or being whatever, any sane, educated Cameroonian should not force people to buy his opinion. You are more of a dictator than the people you are abusing that they are dictators. You should be stupid enough to address people on platform who are talking what they believe in. Don't practice that nonsense. That's not leadership. You need to be re-drilled when it comes to leadership. Again, you, Abdul Karim, I'm the one addressing you. This is your nonsense on social media. You insult people every time. It's too much. Who do you think you are? Don't do that. You're not better off upstairs than any other person here.
Okay, we want to we are going to be concluding here. I think that every day we nobody actually is doing anything for the interest, but I think if we have an information to pass out, we pass it out responsibly. If you have something to say it, not abusing people, clowns. Ndifo, Richard out there in the United States, we have to end at this juncture. How do we find a common ground between those who call themselves Ambazonians and Anglophones?
Yes, Leonard, just quickly to tie in with the issue of Abdul Karim. I've been reading his comment here, and he said even worse things than that. The truth is, it is ironical that the same people who seem to be calling this government tyrant, dictators, and all of that, are the same people who will not allow other people express their opinions. I just want to say that from all what we have been discussing here, we did not in any way say that the people who are calling for secession or those who are, or they call it restoration, they are not, their opinions will not be counted. We are simply calling on them to allow other opinions to count, because they are the ones stifling other opinions. They are the ones refusing that other people should express their opinions, and that is exactly what they are expressing on social media. It is sad that people who say they want to lead an independent nation will have this kind of mentality, because I don't see myself being governed by people who are living with the mentality of the early man, so to speak, where you do not tolerate any other opinions except your own opinion. I don't think that is the kind of democracy we are talking about. And so, therefore, when we talk about the issue of Anglophones and secession, we are talking about a line between this kind of people who have their own views, which I have no problem with. I respect their views, I respect their opinions. Out here, I meet a lot of them here, and we have conversations, and I express my view as far as that is concerned. I don't think that we have any problem with anybody holding that opinion. But the truth is, hold your opinion. Defend that opinion, except you are so weak in defending your opinion that you think that you can intimidate others. Because if you believe in your opinion, convince me with your opinion. Come out with be able to convince me that your opinion is the right opinion. But when you choose the path of intimidation, that only tells me one thing, that that opinion you hold is not the best.
Okay, we have to end here. Dr. Nick, thank you for accepting our invitation to be part of this edition of the program.
Thank you very much. Just to continue to reiterate the fact that we are going to have a genuine dialogue. It will be open, would be very convivial, and then there's going to be reconciliation and there will be unity in the nation. And then before you take the microphone, to continue to remind our people that coronavirus is actually killing, is deadly, and we are thankful that the Chinese have come up with a vaccine. And I'm thinking that that vaccine is great because the way the vaccine was made, they have used the old technology of making vaccines, so it takes away the fears of the other vaccines, not the new technology that others have used. They have used the old standard technology of making vaccines, and I think we are going to be safe. Thank you very much.
Okay, we also say thank you to you, Senior Barrister, for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. We are all hoping that peace will return to this nation.
Okay, Mr. Leo, please try and advise the nation through this program to make sure there is a good communication and interaction between the old people and the youth in handling this problem. Not talking about a youth as in Cameroon context, I mean youths as from 23 years to 35 years. Please and thanks much. I have learnt a lot today. Thank you for coming, Apostle Ambe Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Cameroonians, be aware, COVID-19 is real and it kills. So let's respect the barrier measures to keep lives, because the war has taken so many lives already. We should not allow COVID-19 to multiply the death toll in Cameroon. And to all Southern Cameroonians, whom I am part of them, we are working for the betterment of every Southern Cameroonian, and we are fighting for peace to reign so that our brothers don't die anymore. They don't get displaced, they remain as refugees in strange countries. This country is ours, and we have to do everything possible to make sure peace returns. And everybody is entitled to their opinion. Whoever is on any TV channel, whoever is standing in Cameroon, whether you are for decentralization, whether you are for federalism, confederation, or secession, your opinions are accepted. What we will not accept is people trying to impose their philosophy, their theories, their ideologies on others. Cameroon is a country of liberty, and everyone has a right and the duty of a citizen to express their will and their opinion. That is what we call democracy.
Okay, and Care Ferdinand, you are asking that kindly ask Dr. Nick if I can get his number. Care Ferdinand from Bamenda. Dr. Nick, you are going to have his number. Should I send it?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Njifo Richard, thank you for taking part in today's edition of the program.
Thank you so much, Leonard. It has always been my pleasure, and I will be glad to be around again whenever you call.
Okay, now we want to thank you all who took time off to watch the program. We also thank those of you who took time off to copiously insult what we did out here today. It is also part of democracy. We want to thank you, Eli, and to you, Desmond, and Bertrand, and Noel. Thank you for all the job you guys have done this evening, and to you, Tabitha and Bryant. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.